Hello, this is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the week ending. I'm Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today. British opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has accused the government of deliberately creating a hostile environment for migrants. Speaking at the Prime Minister's question time, Mr. Corbyn stated that the government's hostile environment policy has had a devastating effect on migrants. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, Mrs. May, has assured the Windrush generation, who were earlier classified as illegal immigrants by the Home Office of automatic British citizenship at no cost to them.
We recognise that the Home Secretary has rightly apologised to the Windrush generation and made a commitment to compensate people for the hardship they've endured. The government is committed to compensation in theory, but as yet nothing in practice. There's an understandable lack of trust by the Windrush generation. So can the Prime Minister today be clear and confirm that those British citizens who've worked, paid taxes here for decades, wrongly denied pensions and benefits will be fully compensated?
Can I first of all say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, it is absolutely right that across this House we should all be absolutely clear in our determination to ensure that we stamp out racism in every form. Let me set out the House the action that has been taken, because my right honourable friend did make very clear the offering the other day in her statement before the House that those who came here before the 1st of January 73 from Commonwealth countries, this is from Commonwealth countries as a whole, will be offered citizenship status without paying the fee, without taking the knowledge of language and life in the UK test. And the children of that generation, the Windrush generation who are in the UK, will in most cases be British citizens already, but they will also be, where that's not the case, they'll be able to apply to naturalise at no further cost. We're also taking action in relation to those who made their life here but retired to their country of origin and have found it difficult or impossible to return to the UK, and will work with High Commissions to make sure they can easily access the offer of formal British citizenship, because the Windrush generation are British. They are part of us. And there will be a compensation scheme, which my right honourable friend will set the details of that compensation scheme out in due course. But I think everybody will see that the action the government has taken is because we know these Windrush generation, the Labour front bench shake their heads and go, oh no. The Windrush generation are British, they are part of us, and we will ensure that.
Jeremy Corbyn! Mr. Speaker, it's not an act of generosity to waive citizenship fees when they're British citizens already, and they should be granted full status immediately. Mr. Speaker, 4 years ago, an internal Home Office memo stated that her hostile environment policies could make it harder for people like the Windrush generation to find homes and, in its own words, provoke discrimination. Why did the Home Secretary ignore that memo?
The Right Honourable Gentleman talks about a hostile environment. What we are proposing here will, I think, flush illegal migrants out. We are trying to create a much more hostile environment in this country if you are here illegally. Those are not my words. They are the words of the Right Honourable Member for Birmingham Hodge Hill when he was Labour Immigration Minister. And the Labour leader ought to know about this because the Right Honourable Gentleman sits on his front bench.
Jeremy Corbyn! Speaker, what I'm talking about is the Windrush generation of people who came here completely legally. The Prime Minister herself was warned by my friend, the member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, who's now the Shadow Home Secretary, directly about these policies in 2014. And when that Act was going through Parliament, the then Community Secretary, Eric Pickles, wrote to her warning the costs and risks considerably outweigh the benefits. Why did she ignore his advice as well as the request from my honourable friend?
I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, in relation to the Windrush generation, we have made absolutely clear that the Windrush generation, those people who came here from the Commonwealth before the 1st of January 1973, have a right to be here. They are British. They are part of us. The problem at the time was that they were not documented with that right, and that is what we are now putting right. He talks about action that the government has taken in relation to those who are here illegally. The Windrush generation are here legally. Action against those who are here illegally has been taken by successive governments. Checks on someone's right to work here came in 1997. Measures on access to benefits in 1999. Civil penalties for employing illegal migrants in 2008, both under a Labour government. And why have these actions been taken? Because people up and down this country want to ensure that the government is taking action on those people who are here illegally. It is not fair to those people who work hard, who have a right to be here, who've contributed to this country, if they see people who are here illegally being given the same access to rights and services.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems to want to get away from the injustice done to the Windrush generation. The Equalities and Human Rights Commission warned about the 2016 Immigration Act, saying the bill is likely to lead to destitution and may cause inhuman and degrading treatment in breach of Article 3 of the European Convention of Human Rights. They've quite rightly apologised for the scandalous way in which British citizens have been treated, but it was due to the 2014 and 16 Immigration Acts. So will the Prime Minister now commit to reviewing that legislation to make sure this never happens again?
As I set out for the House last week, this is a generation who came here prior to 1973. The Labour front bench say we know this, but the questions that the Right Honourable Gentleman is asking suggest that they're ignoring some of the facts in relation to this. This is a generation who came here prior to 1973. We are not ignoring the problems that some members of this generation are facing. That is why my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has set out a special team in the Home Office to deal with their inquiries, not just deal with their inquiries, but actively help them to find the documentation to clarify their status. That is why we have made the offer that my right honourable friend made of ensuring we can give them formal British citizenship, which recognises that they are British, but does so in a formal, documented way. The problem was that back prior to 1973, when the Windrush generation came here, they were not given documents that set out their status. We are now putting that right, and we will leave no stone unturned to put that right.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Speaker, in 2013, the then Home Secretary said it was about creating a really hostile environment, and that's why she was introducing the legislation. Had the Windrush generation not mounted the campaign that they have, had members on this side of the House not raised the matter persistently, there would be no compensation, there would be no review, there would be no apology. But, Mr. Speaker, any review of legislation needs to be wider than just immigration law. The dismantling of legal aid provision in 2012 made the impact of the 2014 Immigration Act harder to challenge. These policies swept up British citizens and legal migrants, causing them immense suffering, as she was warned. So can the Prime Minister send a clear message today and tell us the hostile environment is over and that her bogus immigration targets that have driven this hostile culture will be scrapped? The Windrush generation have served this country and deserve better than this.
The Windrush generation are British. They have contributed to this country. They have made their life here. Dealing with those people who are here illegally, not the Windrush generation, they are here legally. There are people who are in this country illegally. And I say to the right honourable gentleman again, I've quoted the right honourable member for Birmingham Hodge Hill when he was Labour's immigration minister. The Leader of the Opposition referred to 2013. In 2013, the then Shadow Home Secretary, the right honourable member for Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford, said, "We need much stronger action from government to bring illegal immigration down." That is, well, the Labour front bench are saying the Windrush generation are not illegal. They are not illegal. They are here legally. That is why we are providing the support to enable them to get the documents for their status. What we are talking about, what the right honourable gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, is talking about, is whether or not we should deal with illegal immigration. And up and down this country, the British public will tell him we should deal with illegal immigration.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about the environment created by her as Home Secretary for 6 years when she knew full well of the problems the Windrush generation were facing. At last, she's been forced to act upon it. Last week, the current Home Secretary admitted the Home Office sometimes loses sight of the individual. Yet we now know that when she took over from a predecessor, her intent was to harden this cruel and misdirected policy, pledging to do so ruthlessly. A report last month by immigration officials stated the hostile environment measures were not even having the desired effect. The current Home Secretary inherited a failing policy and made it worse. Isn't it time she took responsibility and resigned?
The U.S. State Department has criticized the Nigerian government under President Muhammadu Buhari for the persistent abuse of human rights and the government's failure to investigate the abuses, especially by members of Nigeria Police and the armed forces. Also speaking on the floor of the Senate, Senator Shehu Sani criticized the government for the arbitrary use of state forces to persecute Nigerians, especially those that are perceived as being against the president.
We always make references of the past, of the corruption, the human rights violation, the cruelty, the persecution that happened in this country for over a decade and a half. Here we are today, being accused of what we have been speaking against for over a decade or two. It may be convenient for us to stand up here and sing the praises, either out of fear or calling for favor. But we should know, whatever is not done on the foundation of truth will certainly collapse. Amen. Do you know, as it is today, Amen, for how long he will serve in that place, a dark cloud of guilt will be hanging over the horizon of Nigeria. But the very fact that he represented people. Resolutions. There are people today who are in power, who have forgotten those who suffered, those who sacrificed to bring them where they are. It's not simply about the opposition, but this is the reality even within the ruling establishment. People who have worked and have sacrificed their life and resources to see the change we have experienced today, if at all there is any, have consistently and erroneously been tagged or targeted as enemies of the president. How can people who have suffered, who have worked to bring a president they believed in into power, from day one, they started being targeted as being enemies of the president? I think we should understand ourselves very well. That if we continue on this path, we are certainly heading to perdition. And we shouldn't deceive ourselves. We have seen how nations of the world that claim to be democratic demonstrated in no mean terms symptoms of tyranny that led to the collapse of such countries.
And my distinguished colleagues on
Dino
these
Melaye
particular...
is a victim today. But as it's been said by Senator Alero, an attack on one is an attack on all. You may be in the good books of the government of today. I have had people outside justifying what is happening to the parliament today. If you are happy that the parliamentarians of today are being haunted, are being attacked, are being persecuted because you don't like their faces, tomorrow there will be a parliament you like and with a president you don't like.
In the meantime, members of the Nigeria Senate have condemned the police handling and harassment of Nigerian Senator Dino Melaye, which led to his being hospitalized following an attempt to escape from a moving police vehicle.
We tried as much as we can to see him, but that the instruction that was left was that only Senator Abu Ibrahim is allowed to see, and Senator Kaka and Abu Ibrahim have been given the permission to see him by the police. The IG. Wait. Wait. And as at the time we were leaving the hospital, there is only one issue that is a bit worrisome, in the sense that the feeding of Dino has become an issue because the police are not willing to feed him because of the situation. They are afraid of offering to feed him. The National Hospital have equally expressed reservation over feeding Senator Dino. So, but with the wait, let me finish. But before we left, we were assisted greatly to have a discussion on the way forward, in view of the fact that there is a medical personnel, again, who is an AIG from the police, who is working together with the trauma surgeon who is handling Dino. And it was agreed that if there is a way they can arrange for food from any source, but that the condition is that whoever is bringing the food must taste both the drink and the food before it's given. And we have, I'm only telling you, you see, you send me on an assignment. I'm giving you the factual situation. I'm just giving you the factual situation. And in conclusion, we agreed that immediately the Deputy Chief of Staff should try as much as he can to get in touch with people who can provide food for Dino. Now, when we were leaving, there was a report that Dino has asthma. So a chest surgeon was the one seeing him at the time we were leaving. And so they were taking the implications one by one to sort out. But we have assurance that they will do whatever is humanly possible to stabilize him between now and possibly in the next 4 or 5 days. Wait, listen, the last report which I must report here, the last report which I must say is that there was insistence to remove him from the National Hospital. And I think the National Hospital said, well, if you are taking him, you must sign on that taking for us, that whatever happens is on your own. And that's what is keeping the idea. And that's why nobody is willing to sign. Otherwise, I think he will have been moved to elsewhere. We don't know.
The Senate President, Senator Bukola Saraki, who led other senators to visit the injured senator, stated that Senator Dino is stable and responding to treatment.
As you know, after sitting in the Senate today, we resolved to come here because for 24 hours we had not heard or know of the state of Santo Tino. We're happy that we've just seen him. He's in intensive care. He's stable for now. Though he has not eaten for the last 24 hours, we're trying to resolve that. He's on fluids and he's been seen by cardiologists, by all specialists to try and ensure. As you know, he also has a lot of underlying issues, he's asthmatic, so we're a bit concerned. But for now, we thank God he's stable. I want to thank the management of the National Hospital, led by the chairman, our own former speaker, for the professional and the medical staff for what they've been able to do so far. As for now, he's stable, he's being monitored, and we continue to pray for him that he fully recovers from his present predicament here.
Can you confirm if he's still in handcuffs?
No, he's not in handcuffs. He's innocent.
This is how far we can go on News Roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I'm Tunde Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Regardless, residents status abroad, living outside the shores of one's homeland can really be challenging and sometimes very difficult. Let's be sincere, to keep pace with updates from the host country abroad can really be difficult. Here on Dialogue in Diaspora, we give you every information, every news, every current issue you need to know on happenings outside the UK. Dialogue in Diaspora is your link between the world and the United Kingdom. It's your window to Africa development. Here, live on Ben Television.